Hey guys, Derek here at Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with an EDH deck tech for a Tiny Leaders deck. As you can see on the screen, this will be for Ertai Wizard Adept, and this is a Tiny Leaders deck that was suggested to us by one of our subscribers, Robert Friesen. This is a deck that he wanted to see us, throw our thoughts into, and that was obviously a mono blue Ertai Tiny Leader deck. Bit of control in here. So let's go over the deck. Being that it is mono blue, it is susceptible to just being a control deck anyways, and not permission style deck. But let's go over the general. So we have Ertai. He's a 3-cost 1/1 wizard. He's old school, so he's a summon legend, but he's been errated to just being a wizard. And he has a pretty cool ability where you can pay 2, a blue and a blue, tap him to counter target spell, play this ability as an interrupt, which basically means for, as an instant. Just old wording. But basically, for 4 mana, you can counter a spell. It's a very, very powerful ability, especially in a format like Tiny Leaders where you only have so many cards. So we're going to get into the deck. Start with the lands. We run Halimar Depths to be able to look at our top 3 cards and change them around. 16 islands and 1 Minamo Schools at Water's Edge, because this lets us tap for a blue or tap a blue and it to untap target legendary permanent. Now I think that he may actually be our only legendary permanent. No, we have one other at least. But this really just lets us use him to counter multiple spells. Now, it is very mana intensive, as it is 4 to counter a spell with him, 1 to untap him, including this land, and then 4 more to counter another spell. But, late game, when you start top decking and the opponent starts top decking, you can really get into a point where you can just counter every single thing they do. For sorceries, we run just 1, Curse of Swine. Because it is an X spell and it does exile the opponent's creatures. So with this card, you exile X creatures. For each creature exiled this way, you put a 2/2 green/4 creature token onto the battlefield. It's really a pretty cool card, I think, because it does exile and doesn't destroy. This gets around a lot of things, indestructible creatures for one, but also it just makes it so that they can't resurrect them later, and it's really nice. For Planeswalkers, we run good old baby Jace Beleren. So we can +2 to make everybody draw a card, -1 so we draw a card, and -10 that target player puts the top 20 cards of his or her library into the graveyard. We won't be using that one very often. We'll basically be bringing him in at 3 and doing the -1 to draw 2 cards, and then the +2 to make everybody draw a card, and then -/ again, just to get that card advantage. For artifacts, we are running Ashnod's Altar. Not that we really need to sacrifice the creatures for mana or have any real way to benefit off it. It's predominantly in here so that we can sacrifice our creatures to avoid them being exiled. Someone has like a Devouring Light or something like that, or the opponent has a Curse of Swine, perhaps. We just want to be able to save our creatures from exile, just in case. And then we have Nim Deathmantle, because when one of our creatures dies, we can pay 4 to resurrect it. And this does synergize very well with Ashnod's Altar, because with Ashnod's Altar we can sacrifice the creature for 2 mana. Now we just have to invest 2 more mana to resurrect it. So it's, really, really cool unless this Abuser comes into play abilities. For our creatures, we're running Augur of Bolas. When Augur of Bolas enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. It's just nice to be able to filter through our deck and get some sorceries and instants. And at a 1/3, he has a pretty good body to block with. Not really much on the offense, but he does a good job blocking. Then we run Azure Mage, a 2-cost 2/1 that we can pay 4 to draw a card. Again, it's just for those late games, drawing some cards to invest our mana into something. Battlefield Thaumaturge. He is pretty cool. I think he's very underrated, being a 37-cent rare. But he says each instant and sorcery spell you cast costs 1 less to cast for each creature it targets, and he has Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets him, he gains Hexproof. We're not worried about the Hexproof at all. What we really use this for is things like our Curse of Swine, because what he will do is he will reduce the cost of Curse of Swine by 1 for every creature it targets. Now, because Curse of Swine is an X spell, that means we can cast Curse of Swine for 2, target every single creature the opponent controls, and exile them all for just 2. Because he's going to, with Curse of Swine, if you want to exile 5 guys, you have to pay X = 5. But he's going to reduce it by 5 because it's targeting 5 creatures. So that's some very, very cool synergy. There's a couple other spells he'll benefit from that we'll go over in a minute. Then we run Delver of Secrets, a very well-known card. 1 cost 1/1. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If you do, if an instant or sorcery card is revealed that way, you can transform him. And he transforms into Insect Aberration, a flying 3/2. Definitely not bad at all. And we have, you know, almost half the deck is instants or sorceries. So that's very likely to happen. Then we threw in Jace, Vern's Prodigy, 2 cost, 0/2. Tap him to draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard, exile Jace and return him to the battlefield flipped. As Jace, Telepath Unbound, where you can tick him up by 1. Up to 3 target creatures get -2/-0 until your next turn. Or you can -3. You may cast target instant sorcery card from your graveyard until this turn. If that card will be put in your graveyard, exile it instead. And -9, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or library in his or graveyard. It's really mostly there to hopefully be able to reuse some of our spells. And because he's really not bad at all. Then we're running Ludovic's Text Subject. He's a 2 cost 0/3 defender. So again, he has a pretty nice body on for tiny leaders. He can block quite a few things, being that 3 defense. And he has pay 2, put a hatchling counter on Ludovic's Test Subject. If there are 5 or more hatchling counters on him, remove all of them and transform him. And when you transform him, he becomes Ludovic's Abomination, a 13/13 with trample. He's really in there for the funsies, because you drop him turn 2, and then every turn that passes that he doesn't get killed, at the end of your opponent's turn, you just invest 2 more mana, and 2 more mana, and 2 more mana. And eventually you're going to flip him, and a 13/13 with trample in tiny leaders is really a pretty good weapon. Then we have Lone Mage Mentor. Excuse me. He's a 3 cost 2/2 Merfolk. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token onto the battlefield, and you can tap 7 Merfolks you control to counter target spell. That combos very nicely with our General, who can counter spells on his own anyways. Just provides us some token generation, and is not bad. Phantasmal Image, very nice. Ideally, the thing we want to be copying with our Phantasmal Image is either Lone Mage Mentor or our True Name Nemesis that I'll get to. But up next we have Snapcaster Mage, because he's awesome and we can reuse a lot of our instants and our sorceries. So, I mean, there's a reason he's a $60 card. Excuse me. Then we have Thassa, God of the Sea, a 3 cost 5/5 indestructible. She's not a creature unless you have 5 devotion to blue. Being a mono blue deck, it shouldn't be too difficult. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, so that knowledge is nice. And you can tap 2 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. That works very well with our flipped Ludovic's Abomination, where it's a 13/13. That's not bad at all. And then we run True Name Nemesis, 3 cost 3/1. As he enters the battlefield, he gets protection from a chosen player. And basically that means he can't be touched by that player. This guy is a monster, an absolute monster. So that rounds out our creatures. As far as our instants, we run Cackling Counterpart for an instant speed, being able to clone one of our creatures, and it has flashback. We run Cancel for a counter, Capsize to be able to return any permanent we want, and it's also nice because that combos well with Battlefield Thaumaturge, where if we are targeting a creature, it's going to actually make this 2 to cast it on that creature, and then 3 to buy it back, so 5 mana to buy it back is definitely not bad. We're in good old Counterspell, Cyclonic Rift, Dominate, which is really, really nice, I think, because it is an X-Take Control spell. It gets around the Tiny Leaders rule, because it's technically a 3-cost card. And being able to steal one of our opponent's creatures is very, very nice, especially since it's permanent. Echoing Truth. This stops all the opposing token decks, like Elves and Saprolings. It's very, very nice. Flusterstorm. There's a reason this card is also $60, and that's because it's a counterspell with Storm, and it's really, really good. Hinder, another counterspell. Polymorphous Jest. This is going to make our opponent's target creature turn into a 1/1 frog with no abilities, and we're going to block it and kill it. It's just a really nice combat trick that gives blue some really good combat tricks that they tend to not have all the time to be able to kill creatures. Pondrify is a 1-cost instant that we can destroy a creature, even though they get a 3/3 green ape token. Sometimes you just need to get rid of the creature. Sometimes there's a creature out there that you just need to get rid of. So we run Pondrify and Rapid Hybridization. They're basically the exact same thing. They're 1-cost blue destroy spells that give the opponent a 3/3. One gives them an ape, one gives them a frog lizard. It doesn't matter. It's really just there so that we can go ahead and get rid of a problem creature that we might not be able to get rid of normally. Then we have Reality Shift to exile creature, Remand to counter a spell, Spell Crumple, and Turn to Frog. Turn to Frog is basically the exact same as Polymorphous Jest, but what I didn't mention is that Polymorphous Jest is a 3-cost that does it for each creature the opponent controls. Every creature they control becomes a 1/1 blue frog with no abilities. Turn to Frog just does it to target creature. But they're both really, really fun to play with. But yeah, that's everything in the deck. Obviously it's mono blue. Heavier on the instants than anything else with a good amount of creatures. The curve is only up to 3 because it is tiny leaders, but we are heavy into 2, and then we start to go down into 3. So what that means is once we hit turn 4, we're on average going to be able to cast 2 spells per turn, and that is really, really nice. It's really helpful. Deck comes in at 284 using TCG mid. That is mostly because of Flusterstorm being a $60 card, and because we have Snapcaster Mage in there and Jace Vryn's Prodigy. So taking out 60 for Jace and taking out 60 for Flusterstorm and taking out 16 for True Name Nemesis, that's already 130 off the price of the deck, and that brings this deck down to in the 100 range. So it's really not an expensive deck to throw together. Yeah, and it looks pretty fun to me. You know, being able to have a general that counters is pretty cool. But I am Derek with Tap and Turn Gaming. This has been Ertai Wizard Adept. Hope you enjoyed the deck. Robert Friesen, this is the deck that you were looking for. So thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff, and we will catch you later. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.